conditioning. It's got the tall ceilings, big old Victorian house, and it was always fairly pleasant. Turn on a fan, and yep, it really.
Attic fan. Yep. All right, it's 4 o'clock. We'll go ahead and start the Board of Public Works meeting. We'll stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barry, would you like to give the prayer?
Sure. Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather tonight to do the Board of Public Works business. Help us to be smart and wise in our decisions and move along as fast as we can. In Jesus' name.
Amen. You'll have to kind of forgive me. This is my first solo mission, so we'll. Yeah, I know the agenda's right there, Barry.
It took me 2 meetings to learn.
Did it?
Place too.
Okay. Good. Maybe I'll be a quick learner and I won't take two.
You're
All right.
smart,
So consent to the agenda.
Can I make a suggestion that for the agenda, we remove item D under new business, that we will address that at a future date? Readdress it.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Consent to the agenda for the meeting of July.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any comments from the audience? No. Okay. Moving right along. Darren, General Manager report.
All right, it'll be just as quick.
Hey, guys, did you actually approve the payroll and claims?
Do it.
I don't think you approved payroll and claims.
Oh, no, we didn't. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just figure everybody'd like to get
I
paid.
thought we lumped all that into the agenda.
Well,
Agenda for the month of.
but he specified
Minutes,
the one.
yeah,
So
so-
my concern was, let's make sure the payroll and claims
Okay,
show
well-
on the record that it was approved.
Back up real quick. We'll do consent to the agenda, payroll and claims as well.
I'll
Motion.
make a motion, we approve.
Second it. All right.
All in favor?
This one. You're good.
Just checking. It didn't
All
say
right.
approve.
Darren, back to you.
All right.
You're off.
There you go.
Now I'm on. This is going to be fairly quick. A couple of items that we've had a very, very busy summer. And one of the things that we maintain and continue to do is that we've got our values and everything else that we keep up here. The mission of the Hannibal Board of Public Works is to provide a safe, reliable utility products with excellent customer service and reasonable prices. And we're doing that. One of the awards that we seek sincerely is the RP3, and that is coming from the American Public Power Association. That gives the association is the reliable public power provider, and we have actually earned the platinum designation. We've had that for a year now. My hat goes off to everybody that's involved in just the looking at this award. Courtney does an immense job of gathering all the information, but it goes from every single aspect, from financial to line work to operations and maintenance. It touches everybody. Safety is involved in it, the reliability, and all of those things have to be in order. And as we do that, it's a great review. It's one of those things where we look at, and it's a metric where we take and measure ourselves against everybody else that's in the nation. And we do it exceptionally well. And the reason we do it exceptionally well is because not only supervisors that are absolutely top of the level, but we've got employees that also are doing their jobs. They do it day in and day out, and we're just absolutely very appreciative of them, of all that they do. The other item I have is that on our reliability and commitment to the community, we have some values that we're striving to always meet: service, integrity, quality, partnership, and safety and diversity. That we involve anybody and everybody. They've got to be qualified, but we do not discriminate. We also provide exceptional service from the front office all the way to the folks in the field and to answer questions and everything else. So that is my report. The summer has been exceptionally busy. We've had some quality things happen with our water that Matt will talk about a little bit, and that we report on a consistent basis. So water, sewer, electric, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Matt, operations report.
Good afternoon. You'll find there on page 1 of the operations report, our overall reliability for electricity remained at 99.995% for the month. We did have we had 16 outages. About half of them were animal related, and that's something that we're continuing to work through. We continued to work on replacing old infrastructure. Most notably down on Sierra Street, we replaced some poles down there and spent a couple of weeks. Moving into the water side of things, you'll see our water production numbers are running there about normal. We did have one day there our daily production max was higher than it has been the past 2 years. I'm assuming the warmer weather that we had attributed to that. It could be related to a water leak as well during that time period. We did exchange vessels 3 and 4 GAC media. That happened mid-month. Again, we change out the media in each vessel once a year, so one set of vessels each quarter helps break up the cost to the department. On the water distribution side of things, we repaired 7 leaks. The big thing for the month was utility locates. We've got a fiber provider that has come into town, and with that we're doing around 100 more locates during the month of July than we typically do. So that required a lot more staff out doing that. Sometimes crews that's all they did that day was doing utility locates. Hopefully it's not something that continues, but it's something we're monitoring and addressing as we can. We're continuing to focus on water loss. You'll see, I'll kind of talk about it now and also the next report, but we got the Orbis caps that are out there listening on hydrants. We're able to move them to the east side of Highway 61, north of 36, a couple weeks ago. We're continuing. We've got 2 master meters that we put over an area, and we're comparing that to what our customer usage meters are showing. We're continuing to do that as well, and so those are things that we're trying to complete in addition to completing all these locates. So sewer side of things, our water treated sewage is down for the month. That's attributed to the hot, dry weather that we had during the month of July. We weren't getting a lot of I&I influence into the plant. We continued and completed the digester train 3 clean out. Spoke with the supervisor this morning, and they're planning on beginning on train 4 clean out next week. And then on the collection side of things, because we didn't have those big rain events or whatnot, we didn't have any SSOs. They were able to keep up on their routine maintenance, cleaning and televising. And then they also raised 11 manholes, which is something we do in behind the street department's paving. If you drove up West Ely, you see the concrete donut in the middle of the street. That's to allow the street department to pave at the grade they need to pave at, and then we come back and we cut that out and get it a nice driving surface. In the past, we've tried to raise them beforehand, and they either get knocked out of the way and you end up with a divot, or they're scared of knocking it out of the way and you end up with a big hump. And so we found through the years, it just provides the best driving surface, and so we go back and do that. On one thing I'd like to update on the technology side of things, we did find out that we're not successful in obtaining the wastewater security grant as it relates to our cameras, and so that's something we'll have to look as we move forward with budget. That was something that was supposed to have been announced, I think, this spring, and what we're finding with those grants are we apply for them, they miss their deadline for announcing them, and then as people wait on them, the cost of this equipment just continues to increase, sometimes pretty substantially. So it's something we're gonna watch as we move forward. Safety topics for the month were drug and alcohol awareness. Again, that's what all of our employees, mainly the union staff there in the warehouse, complete. And then I've got the business office statistics there at the end. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody, any questions for Matt?
Number two.
We can move on in projects.
Water loss, again, we mentioned we moved the Orbis caps. We did find 2 leaks on the west side of 61. They were old lead joints that through ground movement, the lead has come loose, and they had to drive it up and put a collar on there that'll hold that lead in place as we move forward. And we do have some promising leads on the east side of 61. We also contract with a outside company that comes in. You may have seen him. He rides around on a little moped scooter, listens to all the fire hydrants. He was in town last week, and they found 14 leaks or potential leaks, and so we're going to be working through that list. Nothing major, nothing like the unaccounted water that we are looking for, and so we're continuing to work through that. Downtown SSO elimination project. Again, we've completed all the lining that was as part of that project. Trek was in town last week talking about a potential for a new sewer that would take some of the loading off of the Wilson Street or the downtown watershed. And so they're finalizing the report based upon comments last week, and hopefully we'll have something finalized next month. North Street, we continue to move forward with phase 2. Last week they put in 125 feet of the new box culvert. The plan is for them to be completed, I think it was the second week of September with the box culvert, and then shortly after with the road, with all improvements completed by the end of the month of September. And that way it runs in line with the grant funding for it, and everything is paid out by mid-October so that they can close out their grant with the federal government. So phase 3, the engineer's working on finalizing the plans. He's got some sidewalk changes to make, and then we'll be submitting it to MoDOT for approval. And then once that's done, then it'll be bid out hopefully later this fall, with the construction to occur sometime next year. So, and then the electric update on the tie line is we're still waiting on updated information on when that grant may become available, or that you can start applying for that grant that potentially would pay for that project. So, and DNR is supposed to get with us when that application is announced. So.
And that's with the new route, not the old route for that line?
Yes. That's all I have, unless y'all have any questions.
How's the Marchman Avenue coming along?
They're coming along. Again, I hope to have it completed by the end of next month.
That'd be great.
And get that open back up.
And then when are they closing down the upper half of that?
The other half, we don't have a date on that yet.
Okay.
Hopefully it goes out to bid sometime this fall, and then preliminarily we'd start sometime next spring. Depends on who the contractor is and when they could get materials.
Gotcha.
So, and that would be from roughly that little bookstore there all the way up to Grand Avenue.
Okay.
So,
And the size of that will diminish a little bit as it goes up, which may speed it up when it does happen.
Oh, okay. I guess the culverts get smaller as they go up. Okay.
Yep.
They don't have to cut across, right?
No,
That Grand
it's a-
Avenue is still just gonna go right there at that corner.
Yeah, it'd be there in front of that old, where the old car wash was, somewhere along in there.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
All right, thank you.
Paul, you're up, buddy.
All right, well, believe it or not, Darren does allow us to take vacations, so I took that
know.
opportunity last
What's
month.
going on with that?
I know, right?
Because they're loosening up.
So let me take this opportunity to welcome our two new board members. Thanks for being here and look forward to working together into the future. And before I get started with July and a look at those financial results, hopefully you had a chance to look at last fiscal year's unaudited results. And I just wanted to ask if there were any questions on that. We do have the auditors coming the second week of September to do field work. And so we're continuing to wrap up the books with everything on that before they get here. And then over the next few months, we'll work to wrap up the audit and then hopefully have a draft to present to you at our November board meeting, which is in line with what we've done in the past. And then the audit will be finalized then in December. So still a long process to go, but the financial results that we reported are pretty well accurate. There will be some changes here and there with some of the wrap-up items that we do. But any questions on those before we move on to the new fiscal year? All right, perfect. Well, we are just a month into fiscal year 2027 with just having wrapped up July. And so I just wanted to give a real quick layout of how we present our financial report. What we do is we kind of give a summary by fund, electric, water, and sewer, and then we look at each financial statement just real briefly. And so if you're in your packet on page 15, that gives you your summary. And then starting on page 17, we list out our balance sheet, which looks at each fund's assets, liabilities, and equity. And then from there, we get into the income statements starting on page 18, where we look at what the actual financial results were for the month, and then we compare that to what we had budgeted or what we had expected to have as far as financial results go, and then obviously the variance between the two. The next page then, on page 19, would look at those actual results again and then compare them to last year's financial results just to give kind of a year-over-year comparison and why things might have changed. And then starting next month and for the rest of the fiscal year, we'll look at year-to-date financial results. And so however many years we are into that fiscal year, compare that to budget where we expect it to be year-to-date, and then go back again a year and compare those year-over-year financial results. Obviously, we don't have to do that this month since it's only 1 month into fiscal year 2027. But I just wanted to give that brief layout of our financial statements. So looking at July and the financial results that we had, starting with the electric fund and the balance sheet, we did have an increase in cash for the month, or from last month, of about $356,000. And we have to remember that the summer months for us are our highest revenue generating months with people running air conditioning and things like that. And so we do typically add cash during the months of June, July, and August before things stabilize a little bit more. And so that's not anything out of the ordinary. And so nothing else substantial on the balance sheet. Then looking into the income statement for July, we did have a net income, which is our revenues less our expenses, of about $232,000. That was a little bit lower than we expected for the month of July. Revenues were higher than budget, and that was actually despite selling about 6% fewer kilowatt hours than last year. But our net purchase power for the month was $384,000 more than what we had budgeted, which was pretty substantial. We report up in Darren's report the average hourly price that we pay for our power. We had budgeted for July an average hourly price of about $45 a megawatt hour. The average price for July ended up being $71 a megawatt hour, which was astronomical when you compare back to the last 3 years for July and what we typically pay. We've seen that kind of spike in the winter, like in January and February, but this was really the first time we've seen that significant of a spike in the summer in quite a few years. And so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The good thing is that most of those spikes were early in the month of July when it was real hot and there wasn't much wind. Towards the later end of July, it's come down some, which is good for the rest of the summer, hopefully. But that was the reason for the primary reason for the higher purchase power in July. Additionally, the electric fund did have operating costs that were about $74,000 more than budgeted. So what we also do every month is we look at our debt service coverage ratio. And for those that don't know, our bond covenants require us to meet a certain coverage ratio. All three funds have bonds that require a 1.25 coverage ratio, which in real simple terms essentially means that we'll bring in 125% more revenue than what we pay out in expenses. And the reason for that is they don't want you breaking even or recognizing a loss every month because obviously that's a recipe to not be able to pay your debt service into the future. And so they want you bringing in more than what you pay out to allow you to pay that debt service every month. So we report on that to make sure that we're meeting that 1.25 ratio. For the month of July, with the higher net income that we typically see in the summer, we had a debt coverage ratio of 6.48, which is a bit misleading since it is just 1 month and one of our higher months. But if we look back at the last 12 months, and our trailing 12-month financial results, that debt coverage ratio is a 4.5. And so we'll report on that every single month. Before I move on to the water fund, are there any questions in the electric fund?
I just had one question, how we missed our depreciation budget goal.
Oh, yeah, let's look at that. So that is on page
17.
17. So we had budgeted $116,000 for depreciation. We recognize $103,000. So why that is because we once a year, a substantial amount of our assets are capitalized once a year. So our transformers, our poles, our wire, and we have as of this. These financial results for July, we have not yet capitalized those for the entire previous fiscal year. And so if I remember correctly, that's somewhere around $150,000 of assets that we have not yet capitalized. And so once we do, we will rerun depreciation back for all of the previous fiscal year plus July. So that's kind of one of those wrap-up items that I was talking about that we haven't yet done in preparing for the audit. So yeah, that's a really good catch. That number will be a lot closer come next month.
So we just normalize that annual budget monthly and then catch up by the end of the year.
Yeah, and another part of that budget would include, I guess, any capital projects that we would anticipate for this fiscal year, which the electric fund doesn't have a whole lot. But rather than try to figure that depreciation on a monthly basis, we just take that annual number and divide it by 12.
Okay.
So we'll have some additional capital that'll go into that budget as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. All right, let's look at water then real quick. On the balance sheet, we did have a decrease in cash of $123,000 in water. Nothing else substantial on the balance sheet, but looking at the income statement, it did have a net income of $123,000 as well, which was slightly better than expected. We did sell 3.5% less gallons this year than last year. However, operating expenses were quite a bit less than we had budgeted in the water fund. And we've really ran into that now for about the last 12 months or so. with a lot of our water main that we are now capitalizing on a much more stringent basis than we were before. And so that's really helped our operating expenses in that water fund. The debt coverage ratio in water for the month of July is a 2.22, and for the last 12 months is a 2.77. Any questions in water before we move on to sewer?
What is the switch out on the GAC again? Do we do it every, two of them every 2 months? Every quarter.
3 months.
Every 3 months.
We have a total of 8 canisters, and we have to do them once a year, so it's 2 every quarter.
And is that price staying pretty?
Yeah, that's a good
Pretty
question.
level.
It's so for the rest of calendar year 2026, it's $113,000 per change out, and then it's 3% every calendar year. So once we roll over to 2027, it'll go up to about $117,000 a change out, and I think we're contracted through 2028 when it'll max out at $118,000 or $119,000 a change out.
And that's recycled, correct? We recycle that carbon and then just add some new back for our loss.
80% recycled, 20% virgin material.
Okay.
All right, we will move on to sewer. The sewer fund did have an increase in cash of $152,000 from last month. On the income statement, we recognize a net income of $3,517, so very, very small. And so we did have worse than expected financial results in sewer. Unit sales were 6% less than they were a year ago, and operating costs were about 5% more than we had budgeted in the sewer fund. The debt coverage ratio for the sewer fund was a 2.55 for July, and over the last 12 months is a 3.39. We'll talk about this as the year goes on, but we're typically going to have a lower debt coverage ratio in the water fund because we have 2 bonds in the water fund, and so much higher debt service. Our debt service is somewhere around 1.2 million in the water fund. The sewer fund only has 1 bond, and not only that, but we refinanced that sewer bond in 2020, which really stabilized our debt service. And so we've had, because of that, we've had a much healthier sewer fund for the last 6 years as compared to the water fund, just because of that extra debt that we're carrying. In addition to the financial summary, we've got several other things that we report on that I'll just go through here real quickly just to make sure you're familiar. After we get past the financial statements, we report on what we call our dashboard of key performance indicators, or KPIs. These are some of the just general financial metrics that we look at to kind of benchmark ourselves against other municipal utilities, and just some basic items that we look at just to measure progress and things like that. And so on our dashboard, we look at cash reserves and what that percentage is compared to the minimum, which we'll look at that more in just a second. We look at our fiscal year-to-date net income as a percentage of our budget, year-to-date unit sales, and we compare those to the 5-year average to kind of benchmark ourselves on where we're at. Obviously, debt service coverage ratio is on there. We look at our number of delinquent accounts, number of accounts disconnected for non-payment, our electric fund reliability metrics and numbers, water fund and sewer fund. We look at a couple metrics there, our overtime hours, and then training hours and how many subscribers that we have to Smart Hub. So all those dashboard items are on there numerically and then graphically as well. And then after our dashboard, we look at our cash reserve calculations, how those are calculated in terms of a minimum reserve, and then 125% of that minimum reserve is what makes up our maximum reserve. And then we look at our actual cash reserves and compare that to the minimum. When it comes to our actual reserves, we calculate those based on an average daily balance over the last 6 months. That way, if we have any substantial swings in cash, it smooths that out over 6 months as opposed to just a single day. And then lastly, or not lastly, I'm sorry, we then have our credit card statement on there. So let me back up. With our cash reserves, anything that's not operating cash that would be used to meet payroll, purchase power, anything that we pay to a vendor, we invest those in treasuries and CDs, and we call those our cash reserves. And so we have an investment listing there that shows you all reserves and what they're invested in. The state of Missouri limits us pretty substantially on what we can invest in, and so you're pretty much only going to see CDs and treasuries, but you do see there that our overall portfolio sits at about a 4.02%, which in today's market is fairly good, but obviously when you compare that to other investments that are available, that's very low, which is unfortunate, but it does allow us to at least bring back some return on those reserves.
Is there any movement on that at the state?
There is, yeah. That is, if not the number one item, it's definitely up there at the top for next legislation. I don't remember which senator it is, but somebody is bringing that to the legislator. I don't know if you have anything in addition to that, but there's been several states that have looked at it. Some obviously have taken that jump and allowed more investments for municipal entities, and so we're kind of hoping that Missouri follows suit, but we'll just have to see how far it goes. But, yeah. Even if we could double, our portfolio from 4% to 8%, it would be significant. And in my mind, it's hardly any more risk, in what you're investing in. So, but we'll just have to see. And then the last two items, we have all of our purchases that were made using a credit card, and then our check register shows every single dollar that went out the door for July, whether it be via wire transfer, a manual payment, which is an online or an ACH transaction, and then everything else would be paid by check. So that kind of lays out the entire financial report and what we look at month to month. But is there any questions on anything at this time?
What is our bond rating sitting at right now?
So
Total,
Yeah, they don't do us as a total organization. They do it by issuance, and so each fund does have its own rating. The one that sticks out in my mind is the electric fund that went from, and each entity is different, so I don't want to always forget if it's AA or, but it essentially went from an A to an A minus. None of our issuances are in that B category. I think the sewer is the highest at an A, and I think the electric and water are both an A minus, if I recall correctly. And the electric fund, they are looking at that rating annually because of some of the issues we've had the last couple of years. Was that January, I believe, when they last looked at it? And so we anticipate that they'll look at it again this coming December, January timeframe.
What would you say that rating was on electric fund?
A minus.
A minus.
Yep, and the nuance with the electric fund is it's also on negative outlook, which basically means that they'll lower it again if you don't have financial results that are approved upon from the last rating. So the goal for this year is, obviously the goal is to go from an A minus to an A, but that's unlikely to happen. We would rather at least go from a negative outlook to a stable outlook, get a couple of years of stable outlook under our belt, and then hopefully we can get back up to an A after that. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you. And I did want to say we don't require the board to approve our financials on a monthly basis or anything like that. But yeah, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out, and we'll keep you updated on how the audit's going. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Moving on to unfinished business, discussion of board meeting, date and time. I'm assuming this is for next month.
This is pretty much for you as the board to give us some direction. We've got, our professional here is Courtney, who has all the history back to, I'm careful saying over a decade, but we've done this before. We've moved times. One of the things that we didn't excuse Lucas, but he's had some other places to be at this point in time. When you have this discussion, we would love to take and make it better for everyone. One of the things that we do is we have this meeting consistently at 4 o'clock on the third Monday, except usually around January, which is the holiday for everyone. And then we also do that probably February. Other than that, we're pretty darn consistent. When we have public hearings, we change those times to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, so that the public is really interested. Most of the time, we have almost no one here, sort of like today. And so perhaps that is because of time, but we've had it at 3 o'clock, we've had it at 6 o'clock, we've had it at 7, we've had it at other times. And the only thing that really changes the needle is topic. When we put out there that we're going to have a rate increase, that's when people show. Other than that, we have very minimal public input. So we'd love to have your discussion, wherever you'd like us to go with it. We want to make and serve you as the board, do what's best. And if you have questions, Courtney will be able to answer any and all of it.
What would the cost incur if we did change to a 6 or 7 o'clock meeting for the public works?
You mean as far as staff attending later?
Yes.
Matt, would you like to take that one? Or Darren?
Yeah, so again, I'm under contract, so it wouldn't cost me, but we would have, employees that would be either replacing that time at another place or would be working overtime. So there would be that cost to staff.
How many staff are salary? You guys.
All of us, yeah.
I think everybody in here is salary.
Yeah.
That would be part of those meetings, unless you brought somebody from one of the
line or
something like that.
Cost, right? For your salary.
we would be pushing time. In other words, they're not right now they're on the clock and they're working. They would take an hour off. We could either do, trade time or whatever, but that's what we're looking at.
But there wouldn't be an overtime charge then?
Not for those that are in this room now, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that would be is if they ask if we needed somebody from a department that's not salary.
Right, if we had linemen or if we had anybody from water or wherever that is non-salary, we would.
Union.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it should be later to see if we could get more public input, but, I think if we had it later and it decided that, we're not getting any more people than we have here, then, it would probably be better to keep it at what's more convenient for the people here. But I do think the having it later at 6 o'clock, 6:30, we might get more public involvement. Now, if you have information that says when they have changed it, if it's different, then.
I mean, in the last 10 years, probably from 2016 to 21, we had it at 3. And then around 21, they changed it to 4. And, I mean, James has sat here longer than me. But,
We're 20 now.
we've had...
About every 4 or 5 years, people start bitching.
Sure.
And they go, oh, well, let's do some evening meetings and so that people can come. And they do it. And people don't show up. The only time, to Darren's point, when we have a rate increase, people show up. When we had the controversy about building a new water plant, people showed up. When there's controversy, people will find a way to be here. The only other time I saw that we got more people was way back. And I'm not suggesting this because it's very inconvenient to staff when they have to present things. But back when we were at City Hall, we had lots of people that it seemed like they had nothing better to do and would just drop in and watch. So there was more attendance back in the day when we did it at City Hall. But the big objection to that was when they wanted to do a presentation or something like that, they had to drag everything down to City Hall, and it was a big pain, and that's why we actually changed the charter to allow them to move out, to be out here, because originally the charter said they had to meet in City Hall.
Well, I think here
You guys test the water if you want, but my prediction based on over 20 years of being your attorney is going to be you might get a couple of people the first time you do it, and then it's going to drop right back to where it was.
The one positive thing that happened around COVID time was the live stream is happening now. And I think Erica has, an average of 60 viewers every month, watching on that. And they can also go back and watch the video at any point. And then on the agenda, I do have my email. So if they have questions prior, they can contact us. I totally understand you questioning it for sure. But historically, like James just said, dependent upon the topic, we've had meetings from noon to 6 p.m., in the last 20 years. And it really depends on what you guys are talking about where it attracts people in here.
What would you think about having a process for the public to request a later meeting for when there was a topic that there seemed to be a lot of interest on? If there's an avenue for them to actually make that request, that way you'd know you'd have the attendance to follow. So I've watched Rawls County and their data center right now, and if you watch social media, a lot of people are upset. Why did you have a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning? Who could attend that? So they then went and had a Sunday meeting for them that was off time. So if there's a way our customers, which we work for, had a way to request, hey, this is an important topic to us, we would like to see a meeting at 7 o'clock. And maybe put that on our website or something.
I think you have a tool. You mentioned that the live stream, if there's interest, if you see a spike in attendance of people yearning for the information, that would be a good indication that you may have better attendance. But if it's flatlined and you have the same number of people joining, I'm not sure what a live session would add. The same people.
Do we have, and I'm not trying to dump back on you guys, but do we have contact info for the board members where people can look it up and contact the board members? Because my point in that would be when there have been things that were controversial, the board has taken upon themselves to move it at various times. There have been some times, for instance, when there was a rate increase that we thought was going to be controversial, that they moved it back to like 6 or 7. I don't remember this specific time, but you guys can always move your meeting.
There's been suggestions to the board members, and they've brought it up. I mean, Daryl's sat on the board too and had people say things, and it's really hard to make everybody happy. You got board members that have students in school, Lucas, you got all kinds of different things, you're looking at. The customer's number one, but, it's just a lot to.
I would agree, it's tough to make everybody happy, but you can make an attempt to make sure that you're doing the best. And if you don't get
100%.
any responses, then.
Yeah, 100%.
James, to answer your question, we do have a submission from the website, that very simple form that anyone can fill out that gets emailed directly to all 4 of them.
And that's pretty easy to find, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you just go to the directory and then you can click on, it literally says contact Cole Painter button, like contact Brian Lucky, for each one, and then it does go to everybody, so.
Have you seen a change with online attendance?
Well, it's just, it mirrors what we see here, and, so if there is a public hearing, like a public rate hearing, I have a count on that of 266 views from the last one we had, which was in February for the March rate increase. Just the same as we had people in here that time. Now, back in January, we had 46 views for our regular meeting, and we had, I think, just like 1 person in here. So it literally mirrors what's going on online, also mirrors what happens in here. So we'll see a spike in those views, and that's not necessarily live, it could be just looking back on it, like watching, like, I can't see if they're, go back on the, insights to see if they're the ones that watched it in the moment, like while it was live, or go back and watch it, so.
Well, maybe the best thing to do is just play it by ear, like they have, like the board has been in the past. And if there's something that looks like it might be a little bit more controversial, whether it's a rate increase or, something like that, then we can always move it at that time.
And we always know a month ahead of time, pretty much, don't we?
Yeah.
If there's going to be something that is going to be more pertinent to the public.
Yes.
So we could actually and kind of strategizing towards that, we can always just push the meeting back just so we have that ability to accommodate the public. I mean, that's.
Anytime you have like a rate increase, you're gonna have more than one meeting. You're not gonna just post a rate increase and then vote that night.
Right.
So if you have that on the agenda, then you would know the following one, hey, we're gonna take the actual vote on this, maybe we just move that meeting back to 6 o'clock or whatever.
Right.
It'd be easy to establish a trigger on the attendance on live stream. Anytime we get over X, the following month, we'll have a meeting later then.
Yeah.
And unlike the city council, who always has something exciting going on, ours is pretty much, the board pretty much just standard.
It's just standard business.
It's a business, correct. We don't have the excitement. I mean, guess we could put annexation on the hearing one night just to see how many people show up.
And I'll tell you what, you start getting mud wrestling in, you might have excitement.
That's a possibility.
So like I can tell you right now, we have one person viewing this right now.
Okay.
And we've had 11 views for the entire duration. And the average view duration is 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
Probably Cole's wife.
I'm sure, yeah.
I'd say we just keep it as it is, and if we need to move it to a different thing for whatever reason, we can. We know ahead of time, more than enough time ahead of time to put it out there, so.
And frankly, staff is willing to do that. I mean, absolutely. So we want to be accommodating and provide the best customer service ever, so
That's
we'll be doing
fine.
that.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll move on to new business then. There's no other further discussion on that. All right, emergency response plan and safety manual approval. Matt.
In your packet tonight, or this afternoon, I've got the updated emergency response plan, our current safety plan, and then also I'm asking for approval of APPA safety manual. We're doing this, typically this would be handled, policies affecting operations and stuff would be handled by staff, but as we're applying for this RP3 designation, they require or request that you have approval of the appropriate people in charge of budgets and such, that if we implement this, that it will be followed and that we have necessary mechanisms in place to fund it and such. And so that's why I'm here. Again, as Darren alluded to earlier, RP3 designation, reliable public power provider. First one we applied for was in 2012. We've got to have an application in, and I think at the end of September. So we went through, we updated our emergency response plan to reflect our existing organizational chart and associated duties. It also included new sections on IT and cybersecurity, including insurance, and all of the contact information was updated. Safety manual, we haven't updated since 2022. There's an update history included in the board packet. And then the APPA safety manual 17th edition, that went in place just after we applied for the RP3 designation the last time. And looking back in 2019, the board approved the 16th edition, but I couldn't find anywhere that we approved the 17th edition. We've been operating under it since it was released, but no formal approval. So what I'd request of you is just adoption of the safety manual, the emergency response plan, and this APPA safety manual.
And that is compliant with our union contract with our employees.
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is that like MSDS sheets, or is that just your standard practice? Is that what the?
It covers everything you'll see there in the board, included flaggers, assembly points,
Right.
wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah, safety footwear, wearing apparel, all that stuff. I was just kind of curious as to if that was your, like your PPEs and whatnot. And
Yep,
everything.
it includes everything. I mean, use of ladders, chalking wheels. I mean, it's everything. I think the safety manual is 160 pages. So.
Okay. All right, well, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Yep. Memorandum of Understanding, MOU air burner.
If you would look on page 42 and 43 of your packet on the document, we have created, and when I say we, Andy Dorian is the primary author, and then we have looked at it, edited, and sent it back to him. We have done things in the past, when I say we, the Board of Public Works in the city, such as when the purchase of the industrial park was done. We go back and we try and look at what was done and why they did it, and we just don't have a whole lot of information. And so this is to document what we're doing today, so that in 5 years, 8 years, or whatever, they can still say, this is what the agreement is, this is what we're doing. Documents make good fences and friends. So that's what we're doing. We have helped them. We are working with the city in that our part of this MOU is that we write them a check every year for $35,000. We have gone back and looked at the disposal that we do and that we have used in the past. We used to be able to haul it off, and that has gone away. So we rely heavily upon this. The city uses it to burn their trash and tree limbs, etc. It's great for them. It's good for us. It's on their yard. You can see.
Not trash.
I'm
No,
sorry.
it's, yeah,
You're
yard
absolutely
waste.
right.
Public, I just want to put.
Thank you.
that-
Thank you. Thank you.
Yard
Thank
waste.
you.
We don't burn trash.
That's correct. Yard waste, correct? Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is a very key and important correction. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The city operates the air burner located at the Hannibal Leaf Lot. They provide personnel, routine operation, and associated labor necessary to process leaves and woody debris delivered to the leaf lot. They maintain appropriate records regarding operation and use of the air burner as required by MDNR. The BPW, we will provide $35,000 a year. We will make sure that we give it that payment to the city on or before July 31st each calendar year, and continue annual reimbursement payments for as long as the air burner remains in service and operational at the leaf lot. The term, this MOU, shall become effective upon execution by both parties and shall remain in effect for the useful life of the air burner unless otherwise amended or terminated by mutual written agreement. This is a very plain, wonderful document that will be in our records. It'll also be valuable when it comes to audits, etc. It just keeps everything nice and clean. So my recommendation is that you approve that and authorize the president to sign that MOU. And after that, we will send it to the city for their approval at their next city council meeting.
Any discussion on that?
I didn't see anything in here on the maintenance thereof.
Did you touch that? Did you help us on that one?
I did not.
Okay.
Is this joint ownership of the air burner then?
It is not. I believe its ownership is the city owns it.
Then maintenance would be on the city.
So
I haven't
Yes.
read the memorandum. But
Okay.
I would say if the city is the one that's owning it and we're just making payments to use it as our disposal site too, then maintenance is on the city.
Okay.
I would make an emotion, we approve that with that edit, though, that
That
maintenance
amendment.
is the responsibility of the city.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, next up, reauthorization of line of credit. Paul.
All right, it is that time of year. Every year we do this process. So most of you are aware that we have a business park out by the hospital that is out there. If you go past our substation, you'll see a big giant sign that actually calls it Lakeside Technology Park. You're probably also aware that there is not a lake on site. At one point, we had potentially, or looked at potentially putting a lake out there. And with that, it was determined by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that that would destroy all kinds of habitat. And so if we were to ever move forward with building a lake at the park, we would be required to do some other mitigation around town in order to make up for that lost habitat. With that, we are required to maintain a line of credit with a bank. If we were to ever start that mitigation work and never complete it, then they would have this line of credit that they could draw on and then carry out the rest of that work. It's more of a formality thing. You see this type of thing all the time with those types of entities. And so we have no plans to build a lake out there in the near future. But if we were to ever decide to do that again, we would want to have this line of, or we would have to have this line of credit available. And so as you also probably know, with a line of credit, we don't pay anything for it unless we actually utilize those funds. If we were to draw funds out, we would then be accruing interest at the 8%, and then we would have to pay that line of credit back within 30 days. And so we have done this every year since 2017 when this first came about. And so what you have on there is a document that shows the renewal, which would be at an interest rate of 8%. The credit limit on that line of credit is $61,555, and the updated maturity date would be September 9th of 2027. And so what we are requesting tonight is that you, as the board, give Cole the authorization to sign this line of credit renewal, and we carry on for another year. But I'm happy to take any questions on that in the meantime, if anybody has any. $61,555.
I'll make a motion that we allow that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Don't let me forget to catch you after the meeting, and I'll
Sure.
get your signature on that. So, thank you.
Yep. All right, comments from the city attorney.
I have no comments.
General discussion, all I've got is, I went to the city council meeting last month and talked to them about a fifth member. They were pretty receptive about it. They want some more kind of vernacular in it and, figuring out how we wanted to move forward with that before we put it on the ballot. There was a bit of discussion on who and who they would like to see in there. But I would like to, at some point in time, get together with the city council and maybe hash it out. Cause I really want to see this go forward, but I want to do it the right way. So.
And one of the other issues is a few of the council members had no knowledge of you coming.
Right.
So
Right.
I did, because we were at the last meeting, but they were kind of caught off guard.
Sure,
It wasn't
sure.
appropriate to do anything there.
Right. So yeah. So I'm more than willing to work with the council on this. I think it's we definitely need your guys' buy-in as well, because it's just something that needs to happen. It's been a long time coming. So
How many times in the past has the mayor broken a tie?
I broke it 6 times in a year and a half. That's too many. Should never have a board of 4 people.
What, I totally agree with you should never have a board of 4 members.
Yep.
Absolutely. My concern is we've had problems with communication gaps between the city council and this board in the past. So by eliminating that as a tiebreaker, we're gonna break that communication even worse.
I don't know that we
Other
will.
thing I'm concerned about
Go ahead.
is anytime we have a closed session, the board's city council's represented or able to attend a closed session.
Anybody's
If-
able to attend a closed session as long as they're invited to it
Right, and
beforehand.
definitely, I mean, that would be something that needs to happen. I mean, we're the city's utility, therefore the city should have a representative at the closed session.
Absolutely.
And I don't disagree with you at all, and I've talked to Daryl about this too. But yeah, it doesn't need to be something that goes away from the city, because then you kind of lose sight of where you're at in your role that you're serving.
So we'd have to change the charter to have an extra person. If the council's good with it, we could also change the charter to provide that the council can choose a member that will be the council representative. And the reason why I know that works is that's how Palmyra does it.
Okay.
Palmyra has, every year, when the mayor does his appointments, he talks to the council, he says, okay, who wants to be the representative to the board? And then that council member goes to all the Board of Public Works meetings and then acts both as a liaison and actually in Palmyra makes a report every meeting to say, hey, this is what the Board of Public, because they have their meeting on the same night. So he comes, reports to the council what happened, whether the manager's there or not, and also he gives kind of a council-spun view of it. So if that's something the council would be willing to do, I'm pretty confident we could draft a ballot issue and get the charter changed.
We've had this discussion, you and I.
Sure.
And one of the things has always been a sticking point about putting, like for instance, actually put the mayor on the Board of Public Works, has always been, do we want to tie the city and the Board of Public Works together like that? If a legal issue came up, does that tie the city into a legal problem?
Possibly. I don't recommend you put a member of the council on as a member of your board for exactly the point you're making, Barry, which is that what you don't want is people saying, well, the city council is backwards, inverse taxing people by getting the board to raise fees. And that's the problem that other cities have sometimes run into. City of Herman about 20 years got sued for it, and they won, but still, you don't want to open the door to it if you can avoid it. And that's quite frankly the reason why they originally split off the board as its own entity when they did the charter. They did so in order to insulate themselves from those claims.
You're doing it both ways, so
Yeah.
you're insulating the city from any board problem and the board from any city problem.
And what I find in Palmyra is that having that member of the council go to all of their meetings, go into their closed sessions, et cetera, it allows a lot better communication, and it allows the board to tell the council what they're worried about. It allows the council to tell the board what they're worried about. They did have a little bit of a glitch 7 or 8 years ago, but they got past that, and they've been working together great ever since using that format. So,
but that
not saying you
doesn't
need to do it that way, but that's
But
Palmyra's
if that
been
person is on the board, then it makes it a 5-person board, which is what I'm trying to get to.
I
If you had
understand.
somebody just from the council, just being here every meeting and every closed session, that doesn't solve the problem of a 4-person board.
Correct.
No, I get that, and that's what I'm saying is, if you change the charter to first of all provide that the council is going to put 5 people on the board rather than 4, and then also as a part of that, change the charter to say that the council has the right, but not the obligation, to appoint a person to be their representative to the board who's entitled to attend all the closed sessions. We can put that directly into the charter,
Right.
and then at that point, they have the right to appoint a person, but if they go, you know what, we don't need to, then they don't have to. But it gives more flexibility, and
I'd be in
it keeps
favor of that.
and it keeps the separation.
Right.
Not as the fifth person.
Right, but as the council.
As a
representative in
liaison,
closed session.
right, as a liaison to the board, that way there's still that avenue there with the board and the city. The city's not cut off from the board and not, running roughshod all over everything.
I agree
So,
with that. I think that's actually a
If
solid idea as far as communication.
if we can set up a time to get together with all the council and you and Daryl, if that's something that'll work, I'll be in contact with you. So we can.
That too, that sounds a good compromise on a way to
Yeah.
get everybody what they need to be.
Well, with all my extra time, Cole, I could take a look at the charter and try to come up with some proposed revisions that you could show the council kind of what I'm thinking, and they can tell you, well, James is an idiot, and you need to change this
Right.
and this and this. But
Right.
I mean, I will, if you want me to,
Yeah,
I
that
can
would
try to
be-
work on that a little bit, because until people see it in paper,
Right.
it's sometimes a little hard to wrap your head around.
I would really appreciate that if you wouldn't
Sure.
mind.
Yeah.
I know you've got all the time in the world.
We've got time.
Oh, I know, but
We have some sunshine issues to get the whole
Yeah,
council together.
yeah, I mean, we would have to do it at, the council meeting or whatever, but to James's point, if he drafted something and sent it to you, Cole.
Yeah.
You want to send that to me, I could distribute that to the council for
It's-
review, and just say, if you
okay.
guys have any questions, let James know. We can work through it on our end, and then
Sure.
if we're good and you're good, then we just put it on a council agenda for.
as long as we say, please do not reply all. If you have questions, send it only to James, and you all only talk about it in open session like this, it'll be fine.
Right. Okay.
That sounds like it addresses the gap I was concerned.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree. Yeah, but thanks for that. I appreciate it. Sure.
Not a general discussion, but back on your question on the rating, I did misspeak. So our electric fund initially got a rating of an A- back in April of 2022. When we were downgraded in 2025, it was to a triple B plus. So electric's at a triple B plus, water is at an A-, and sewer is at an A. So just wanted to clarify that back for my financial report.
What's the percentage on that for, they want us to be at a certain percentage to stay up. How far below are we on that, on electric, for instance?
They don't give a percentage per se of like, are we really close to I think that's what they use the outlook for. And so the fact that we're on negative outlook kind of means we're on the bottom end of that spectrum, where if we continued negative financial performance, we would then be downgraded again. And so in order to get to the top end of that spectrum, we would need to come off that negative outlook and then get to stable. And then you get a couple years of stable, and then they'll kick you back up to an A-, hopefully, and kind of go on from there.
All right, thank you.
Annually, takes a couple years for them.
I'm sure it does. They
Takes
don't
time.
want to do anything quick, for sure.
Absolutely not. All right. Any other general discussion? All right. Then I'll need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 610.02112 of the Missouri Sunshine Law. The board will convene in closed session to discuss contractual matters. Members are including the board members, Darren Gordon, Matt Munslinger, Paul Trehill, Courtney Harris, James Lemon, and Daryl McCoy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Do a roll call?
Yes. Painter,
Yes.
Lucky,
Yes.
Louderman.
Yes.
We're in closed session. Thank you.